All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for
One Ounce, episode 10. Oh boy.
So Mariners have been defeated.
Mm-hmm.
Thoroughly crushed.
Yeah. In a very off-the-wall kind of way that is sure to leave the rest of the league
very aware.
Very aware.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, that's what kind of shit is going on with the Lycaons.
Okay, yeah. Wait, the Lycans beat the Mariners? Wait, what? In a series? Wait, how?
Okay, there was a weird forfeit game.
Watch the video. Okay,
Yeah.
This is what happened. Shit.
Okay, that's a thing. Mm-hmm. Clearly, this pitcher is something else.
Yeah.
We need to have a strategy in practice and preparation for him.
Mm-hmm.
Given that the Mariners were a very strong team, but not necessarily like, the best team ever or what have you, they had very strong hitters that probably carried them through the most of their games in general. I could see the next team that they're up against be one that's not nearly as good as the Mariners overall, but maybe comes in a bit more prepared.
Right, exactly. Because with this kind of fuckery that they basically use to win the games, just because they beat the Mariners, that doesn't mean that they'll be any better at beating the other teams. And in fact, it will get harder,
It might
probably.
get harder. Yeah.
Because they'll start to see your tricks.
They'll start to see your tricks. They'll start to do their own kind of tactics of that nature. Or this might be just the point where Toua just starts rinsing teams with tactics like this and strategies one after the other, and no one can get ahead of this nonsense.
I could see this being something where, unless it's the teams that are at the top, all the other teams are like, well, that's great that they're doing this thing.
Sure.
Unless we're going to try and mimic it for the sake of winning on our own.
We still have to just play our own game.
We still have to play our own game because there's all the other teams out there,
Right.
and a loss against the Lycaons is not going to matter that much in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, an average baseball season in the major leagues, I don't know if it's different in Japan, but is anywhere between 155 to 165 games.
Right.
I think 162 to 164 is usually the good solid number for a non-playoffs kind of count of games.
Right, and even if they lose 3 of them in a series to the Lycaons, that
doesn't really matter.
That doesn't really matter.
Yeah, you're looking for that 2/3 kind of win percentage kind of thing here, where you can lose 33% of your games and you're doing phenomenally. That's fine.
Practicing against the Lycaons will not help them against other teams.
Absolutely. But okay, all right. This is where we're at. Let's see how the team also rallies around Toua, because he's really standing up for all of them, and sometimes even for players on the opposite team.
Yep.
So
and
there we go.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite part about how all of this has been going so far. He's not just competent, but he's also looking out for people that he doesn't have to look out for.
Yeah. So, y'all, without further ado, let's get into this. Yep.
どうでしょうここは特地と改めて交渉をもって例えば年俸5億の複数年契約を結び直してはそうすればこちらの損失は最小限に
Yeah, 4 years, 5 million a
つまり
year.
私に負けを認めろということか確かに奴には才能がある
So maybe they do adjust things there and come up with a new
だが
strategy.
完璧ではないまだ付け入る隙はある次の特地の当番はこちらから指示する携帯電話を常に持っておけ
Oh, that's good for the owner. Having that direct, immediate communication.
特地は
あとパチンコじゃないですか。別にいいんじゃないですか。相手はバガブーズだし。
Ah, okay.
バガブーズはうちが唯一特地に。
Gotcha. So it is a weaker team coming up.
バガブーズはあまりなめんなよあの白岡監督が率いてるんだ
Shiruka.
白岡勝郎その頭脳的采配ぶりから
Oh, an older guy. I
Strategist
like
versus
it.
Gambler.
He's not going to be emotional. He's
Right.
He's going to stay consistent. Let's see it.
8回のバガブーズ攻撃中2アウトランナー1、3塁なんとここで大きくリードを取っていた一塁ランナーがばったりと転倒してしまった当然一塁ランナーは挟ま
Oh, to force the run at home.
彼は以前記者団にこう言ったことがある
Yeah,
最も得
for
点しやす
sure.
い陣形はランナー1、3塁だと
しかし今みたいなフェイクはよくある手じゃないですか。
問題はそこじゃなく就任後わずかな期間で白岡イズムが完全に選手たちに浸透しているということだたとえ小粒のチーム
Sure.
駒を動かす将が優れていればその力は2倍3倍にな
Yeah.
る
quickly see what they can and can't do.
あの人の采
And how to
配に
use
立
it.
ち向かうのは
Well, also, that means they're more teachable. Generally, people that understand they're not as capable in certain ways are more listening to coaches rather than ego players that are like, no,
I have my way that works.
Right, exactly. Just a good solid hit.
しかし3回、この日スタメン復帰の小島のタイムリーでリカオンズが同点とし、その後は両投手の好投が続いた。
おや、リカオンズ三原監督がベンチを出てきましたね。
リカオンズ選手の交代をお知らせします。
Now Toua
ピッチャー
pitches.
梶原に代わりまして特地
Gotcha.
背番号7
And of course, the fans go wild.
Right,
They're like,
right. And this is
"It's
actually
time."
this is actually a really good idea because they would, they have a strategy going into this, and then you throw in Toua to shake things up.
奴はここまで失点こそしていないが、ヒット自体は結構打たれている。
確かに開幕後の被安打は
Yeah.
25
So
And
if
if
he
you
let
put
in an
in
RBI
2つ
here.
あります。
Right,
そこ
exactly.
につけ込
Put them in when they're most likely to get a run. The outs
失
when
点
they
とは
need
自
them.
責点ではなく特地の登板中に失った点を指すものとする。つまり三塁にランナーがいるときにレリーフとして投入した場合、
Smart.
被安打即やつの失点。
Especially if there's less than 2 outs.
Right.
今後の試合、特地はすべてリリーフ投手として使う。
Oh, smart.
ランナーが三塁にいるときだけの排水のリリーフだ。
Yeah.
この3連戦では特地との対戦はないと思っていたが、まさかワンポイントで使ってくるとはね。
どうします？
せっかく出てきたんだからじっくり見させてもらう。
Nice.
Observing. We've got a series to play, you know? This is
Yeah.
just game 1.
理想はゲッツー。打ち上げられないように低めに沈む球を。
Oh.
遅いの
Oh. Bunt to third base. Bunt to third base.
あ
Yeah.
れは守備陣へダブルスチール警戒のサインを出したんだよ。
Nice.
さあ気合を入れてのさあは三塁のことだよ。一塁を意識するふりして三塁を指すから心構えしろってね。
He's shifting it. Oh, shit. Oh, I have no idea what they're
Yeah,
doing
too
now.
many signals.
また出し直したタイム
Yeah, yeah.
何なんだよ一体何をやろうとしてるんだ結局お前どうやってこのピンチを切り抜けよ
Oh,
うとして
cool.
るわ
Let's
け
work together.
それはもちろんゲッツー
Double play, yeah.
そんなんだからいろいろ悩むんだよワンアウト一三塁この場面の理想的決着はゲッツーじゃない三振だよ
Oh. Yeah.
なんだと三振！なんと三振予告。これは妹さん。
Wow.
舐めてますね。ほんまに相手を舐めきってますね。
I love it.
注目の第三球。
He's holding the bat up. Oh, okay. Never mind. Now he's in position.
たまるか
ストライク！バッターアウト！ストライク！バッターアウト！
There you go.
やつだけは見破っていたんだ。私の出していたサインがバッテリーを動揺させるだけの空サインだってこと。噂以上の勝負師だ。おそらく今日はもう降板だろうが、明日以降もっと勝負してみ。
Cool.
Cool. Yeah.
明日以降の采配が見ものですね。
明日以降？何言ってるんだ。特地はまだおろさんよ。
Oh.
しかし続投させれば甲斐の頭は走者なしです。それではいつも通り
続投させるとは言っていいな。
Wait. No way.
やはり特地は降板か。
ここでリカオンズ守備の交代をお知らせしますファースト西村に代わりまして
Wait.
特地
The first baseman.
告知を中継ぎで起用し、そのままファーストを守らせます。三原監督の采配、全く意図が読めません。
特地って野手の経験ないんちゃいます？
Yeah.
マスコミに叩かれる。
Uh-huh.
一度マウンドを下ろされた投手はその試合もう出ることはできないが、別のポジションを守り続けていればまた特
Oh.
Gotcha. Okay. All right.
これが特地とは排水の
You know what's amazing about this? Is the media's gonna come to the owner or the manager and be like,
What the fuck?
whenever you
Yeah.
have Toua come to the mound, the team just does so much better. Yes, because they're gonna get singles easily.
Oh, sure, right. Yeah, because they want people to get on the third.
なんともまるで草野球でも見ているようです。打った！センター前ヒット！ノーアウト一二塁。
I love that we're not getting his thoughts while this is happening.
そのためにファーストを守らせたんでしょうからね。すると次は送りバントですか。
今向こうには特地というとてつもなく大きな守備の穴があるんだ。だったらそこに。
Oh.
Alright.
投げた。あと北のバン
Here
ト
we
を
go.
構え。
Yep. Right
こ
towards
れは西
first.
岡の足元を抜けた。よっ。おーっと特地だ。特地迷わずセカンドへ。アウト。
Double play with the pitcher going to first. Oh, hell yeah!
Nice.
Do they get a batter to third or home though? Yeah, runner on third. Okay.
Because he can tell what the strategist is going to be thinking, because that's the best play.
Maybe.
相手が上位打線ならともかく次は8番だろう。
君はまさか不運にも打球がたまたま特地の居合わせたところに転がったなんて思ってるんじゃないだろうね。特地のいたところにボールが行ったんじゃない。ボールの飛ぶところに特地が行った。
Yeah.
考えてもみろ。右投げの特地は一塁側からアプローチしてたら逆モーションになってどうしても送球が遅れるんだ。しかしさっきの特地はわざわざ投手の後ろから回り込んで守備がからっきしできないふりをしてね。
Oh my god!
Okay.
さすがワンアウトとやらで無敗なのは伊達じゃないな。駆け引きや腹の読み合いでは奴の方が一枚上手のようだな。
なんてやつだ。
So we'll have to win on the big picture with strategy.
駆け引き半分、そして残りの半分は力だ。
Oh, okay.
奴は器用に投げてはいるが、ストレートの最速は
Yeah, it's
128キロ。
true.
駆け引きだけで劣る力をカバーするのは
And it hasn't been a problem for him so far.
奴はこの3連戦でそれを痛感するだろう。
I mean, we'll see.
ってことは特地を攻略できるってことですか。
ああ、ジョンソン。
Oh.
行って奴に力の威力を思い知らせてやれ。
Oh.
OK ボス。
Like
はいそうです。
getting home.
昨
Yeah.
日一
Or
軍
he's
に
just
登録さ
really
れたばかりの
fast.
新外国人ジョンソンを
There's like legendary baseball players who are just good known for stealing. Like
Yep.
まあなんと言うても
maybe at
初めてなん
mind
で
games as
日本の
well.
球場の雰囲気にならすっちゅうことじゃないですか。
Oh, is he an American?
顔に入れ墨なんぞしろって柄悪いの。
Oh, he heard you say that.
なんだあいつは。全然野球選手っぽくないぞ。
同点のこの場面でバナラシのメンバーを出すほど白岡監督は勝負に甘くない。一体何
He's a JoJo villain.
Right.
気にすんな。
Yep.
ツーアウトだから
Play the batter.
フライもスクイズもない。
Yep.
バッターオンリーっすね。
Yep. We get him out at first and we're fine.
さあプレイ再開です。現在1対1の同点。ツーアウトランナー3塁。
何も仕掛けてこないな。ならバッターオンリーで勝負。
Yep.
ピッチャー西岡。セットポジションから。
All right, here comes his leadoff.
IQ.
Yep. Whoa! Whoa! Whoa!
He's just stealing
Holy
home.
shit!
Oh my god.
Whoa! Whoa!
Oh, and going way off to the side like that.
Yeah, that's
Damn.
smart.
逆転。これは驚きました。なんという足の速さ。
Wow.
広岡監督。
All
とんでも
right.
ない秘密兵器は。
He ran also the second the guy committed to the pitch, which means he can't throw off the runner, otherwise he'd be a balk and an automatic score.
Oh,
結局
gotcha.
試合はこの1点が決勝点となりリカオンズは2対1で敗れた。
Wow.
自称白岡監督と超人的俊足の持ち主ジョンソン。特殊東亜の前に新たな壁が立ちふさが
And
る。
he's getting intentionally restricted by the coach, so he can't help by the owner, so he can't help the team win
Right.
this game as much.
Yep.
Okay, they lost a
All
game.
right. Yep.
That was cool.
Yeah, I'm glad that happened.
Yeah.
So we have a situation where the strategy for how the owner is going to use Toua
to make up his losses.
To make up his losses is a bit more particular and a lot smarter, I would say.
A lot smarter.
Because yes, can games entirely be won by the pitcher? Absolutely. But you're paying these players, whether they're being used or not.
True.
Whereas Toua, that's different. So you don't necessarily want to use Toua all the time.
Yep.
It's bad business, basically.
Totally.
But at the same time, you want to win games, so that's a balance you got to strike.
Yeah.
Cool.
Also, I love that this was a low-scoring game because typical baseball games are actually around this threshold, where 4 points total is about like what you're going to expect, like between the two teams. The fact that it was a solo home run from the Boogaboos, and then an RBI base hit off of Kojima for the first 2 points, and those are the only basic points they had for the majority of the game.
Right.
And that seems about right. But then the absolute once in a million, not once in a million, like 1 in 100,000 twist of,
steals home
off no errors.
Right. Yes.
That's flawless baseball.
Right.
This is the kind of shit that makes you think of like some of the great base stealers of like a baseball history, like Ty fucking Cobb or something.
Right.
It's just like the mind games of basically making a batter be put on, not a batter, but a pinch runner be put on third base just to steal home. And since they've never seen this player before, in fact, this is his first time in Japan ever before, they have no way of knowing what he's going to do.
Right.
He's got a tattoo that probably makes him look a little intimidating. So,
right, because in Japan, the whole culture around tattoos is a lot more taboo.
Yeah.
Right.
So he makes the other player avert his eyes a little bit. So he doesn't see maybe the muscles tensing up as he's like ready to explode and run. Because this is my favorite thing about being a pitcher specifically, is that there's form that matters down to like the micro movement. And this is where things get really crazy. If a pitcher holds the ball here in the mitt and they begin to lift their leg, the angle they lift their leg matters as to whether or not they can throw someone out still on the bases. Meaning that if you're a right-handed pitcher and you're looking this direction, and this direction is third base, right? And I have my ball here and my mitt here, and I do this. If I lift my left knee up straight, I can still throw a runner out on base. The second my knee goes back here and begins to cross over my other leg, even slightly, I have to throw home. And that's basically the way it works, is basically that when you pitch, you full on give a full like
your whole body is moving.
Your whole body is ready for the dramatic rotation when you go and throw. So a batter knows they're safe to immediately start running or stealing or whatever the second that knee goes back.
Right, because what you absolutely can't do, because a balk is when basically you're faking out the person who's batting.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Because since you can get a strike on a swing, even if you miss or whatever, even if it was a ball, you got to make sure that it's going to be a legit pitch. So if I understand this right, as soon as he's starting making those movements, it was the movements of a pitch that's going to go down home, right? And so because that happened before the ball even leaves the guy's hand, the other guy can start running.
He's going.
Right. And he's watching for that. He's ready for it, and then he just goes immediately, right? And then maybe the catcher is a bit shocked by this. The guy is also ridiculously fast, and he did that thing where he like jumped off to the side and then stuck his arm way out.
This is some gigabrain shit. So basically the catcher has about a half a second to respond to the fact that this is a legal pitch coming down there, so he can't go and obstruct the batter yet. The pitch has to clear home plate until he can jump up. But he can still jump up behind home plate in preparation to be on his feet and ready to move. He still has to catch the pitch, otherwise it's going to be an error and an automatic score anyway, or at least a pretty much immediate easy score. But in that time, the batter also has to clear the batter's box once a player is coming down the line there. So all this is happening in the span of about like half a second.
Wow.
So while all this is happening, he's coming in, and instead of sliding baseball style with his feet first, he goes in and he literally throws his hands out here while he's also slinging his feet around to the right so that his body naturally curves to the side, and then he just slaps his hand down and touches the base because he's technically not leaving the line for running down the base.
That was the thing that I was wondering about because like you have to follow those paths when you're running across the bases. You can't just like go out into the outfield and then try and run around and come back into one of the bases, right? That doesn't work. So with going home and the fact that he was able to make it so that he didn't actually leave that track, while at the same time having his body be so far out because
he was in the air.
But also, since it's stealing, it's not a forced out, right? Like, so they can't just touch the base. They have to
actually touch
him, right? So by making it just be something where
the only part you're going to easily touch is the forearm to the hand.
And the thing is that he can leave that, he can hold that back until the last second where he just darts it out and just touches home.
Yeah, so the catcher also can obstruct the base quite a bit legally. But in order to do that, he needs to catch the ball, then bring it down and move into that position, all wearing his gear in the span of about half a second to a second.
While in addition to just reacting to the fact that all this is happening and everything.
Yeah, being a catcher is fucking hard, and it's almost impossible when you've got someone like this running down the base. I have seen in Major League Baseball, stealers, people who are base stealing, do shit like this, and it's pretty much like a coin toss as to whether or not the catcher is ready for it. But when the catcher is ready for it, it's one of the coolest, like, nope, and they slap the shit out of the hand or something like that.
In my mind, I could totally be wrong about this because I don't know too much about baseball. But if I were to think of like the ultimate like Great Dal Moody, Golden Snitch kind of plays, there's the Grand Slam where the bases are loaded and then you hit it out of the park, right? Of course, there's the perfect game where you strike everybody out or you don't, all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then there's stealing home. And stealing home is like the other one because if baseball is a sport, it's entirely dictated by the pitcher and then whoever's on like batting, right? And the pitcher can shut everything down.
Right.
They can shut down people from stealing, but the person can steal regardless of what happens, right? Even if the pitcher is doing a great job,
their individual ability is good enough,
right?
Yeah, there's players that were so fast in Major League Baseball that you could not stop them stealing second.
That's
you couldn't.
Just crazy.
And it's not that you really couldn't; it's that it wasn't worth it.
Sure.
It was just a thing of where there's about a 5% chance that you stop them stealing second. But it's not just that. It's that if you try to do that, there's about also like a 2% chance
that you get an error.
Get an error or something, and then you get them running third.
Right, and then that can get real bad, especially if they're one of those people that's fast enough to be able to get home really quickly.
Because what some of these runners will do, especially on first base, they'll lead off the base, like stand off the base, and bait the pitcher, who's generally a right-handed thrower who can't look at you without using a bit of their peripheral vision primarily. So it's this tricky thing of where they also can't, there's another rule as well, like once you've established yourself on the mound in a specific way here, you can't turn your shoulders specific ways like without going into a balk as well.
Because you can't, because otherwise
you need to actually take your right foot, which is planted on the mound spot, and move it off really quickly, and then you're free to move.
Gotcha.
But yeah, once you've planted on the mound with that right foot, there's only a few things you can do in general.
Okay.
So yeah, I've seen the whole gamut of things where pitchers have these crazy cool ways of scaring runners to go back and not lead off as far.
Right.
But all right, Johnson, the magical wizard of the Boogaboos.
Yep.
Basically became the Booga Man for the Lycaons here.
Also, I gotta say, probably one of my favorite examples of anime dreadlocks.
Oh yeah,
his hair looked so cool, especially when he was like running down towards home. That was just awesome.
Yeah,
but yeah, okay,
all right. The owner is aware of how scary it is to have to pay $21 million for this contract right now.
Yep.
And that number could go up even higher if they don't adjust the strategy. So having him be a relief pitcher where he might give up a hit or at the very least a field out, where if he hit it into the outfield and it was obviously, a fly ball goes out, the runner on third just waits until it gets caught and then just casually jogs home like it's nothing and gets an automatic score. And that's a huge deficit added to Toua's numbers.
That's a great point. Yeah. Also, one of the things I'm curious about, could it technically work, but is it a potentially feasible strategy for if you have someone on third that's and like they're fast, right? And you hit the ball to specifically try and make it a grounder, that way it can't be caught out, and then as soon as it touches the ground, or assuming it's not a fly ball, right, then the person can run immediately. If it hits the ground, then they don't have to worry about needing to go back to the base.
That was the safety bunt that they did.
Right, yes, yes.
So the safety bunt is where you actually try to hit the ball a decent amount of distance.
Okay.
The other bunt that they did, the other bunt that they mentioned, is basically where you try to make the catcher make the play.
Gotcha.
Where you don't try to hit it as far. You basically try to drag it along a baseline, typically first base I've seen. Third base works a little bit, but it doesn't work when there's a player on third
but
as well.
If you're going to be running to first anyway, so if you hit it a bit ahead of you and then can run past the ball, then maybe that works.
Right, because if the ball goes a little bit towards first to where first baseman and pitcher don't have an easy play on it, the catcher needs to go for it, but then the catcher is not going to be
guarding
at home, which means the pitcher, once that ball gets hit that way, needs to immediately understand that the catcher is going to get it, and you have to go all the way home as fast as possible, but you also need to be going there and catch it in such a way where you can then bring the ball to stop the player. So
and you do have the advantage because you're running in a straight line as opposed to the longer diagonal along the field.
No, it's barely an advantage because you have to catch the ball and move it.
No, right, exactly.
So
yes, it's fairly reasonable that you might be able to get to home plate faster than the runner, but not necessarily that you'll be able to catch it and then bring it back down and touch the runner.
Yeah. So the safety bunt was a giga-brain strat that Toua baited them into
because it's the best play.
Well, also by playing poor first base defense, meaning that they thought they were going to screw things up with the pitcher because of the way he faced the first base when he was done with his throws at pitching there. Because basically, if you be right-handed, you'd throw cross all the way, but you could theoretically, instead of squaring up with home plate once you're finished pitching, you could theoretically turn too much and be this way, and you wouldn't be ready for the ball potentially going behind you.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because you'd be turned too far to the left instead of facing square on, where you could just then scoop it up and be like, and you're out,
Sure. Okay.
So it was really cool, high-level stuff there, but I liked that because we have the doofus on the Boogaboos, he's there like, oh, what is going on?
Right.
Please explain it, strategist son, strategist sama.
Right.
And, of course, this older guy is like, oh, no, okay, this is cool. I like to tangle with a professional here.
And this is a fun way that we can get into the details of baseball that would normally probably be very boring to be exposited to us, and we wouldn't necessarily hold on to all the information. And we might not even be able to track with all of it anyways here.
There's a lot that's in body language stuff that's a little bit tricky, like the pitcher thing.
Yeah, but we can tell that this is happening and that it's legit, and if we want to, we can go back through and map it out and get a good understanding of it from what happened.
I just like that the team that was considered to be eighth or whatever they said, second to last in the standings from at the beginning of the season, now is already third because of a good manager that's come in, and someone who in some ways is a lot like Toua.
Sure.
In that because the team is all humble, and also probably because the one player that would have been the ego player, Kojima, is actually really willing to listen to Toua and his stuff when they bring things up. Like the catcher, who is starting to get, oh no, I'm having to plan around their plans.
Right.
And then Toa's like, whoa, calm down. Let me just rile up the batter here real quick.
Yeah.
We'll just play to the batter.
Right. We'll do our usual thing.
Yeah, and it became a simple game of baseball where Toua maybe made things a little bit easier for them to get players to third because he was put in a position that he doesn't really practice as much.
Sure.
But Toua could not have predicted a pinch runner put at third specifically to do things that have nothing to do with the batter.
And he doesn't really have there's not much he can do there. And if you think about it, that was still a situation where you had someone on third, and I don't know if there's like a limitation on how quickly you can like change the positions of players. Yeah, but like
I know the rule for pitchers is that they have to pitch 1 inning fully before they can be switched.
Gotcha.
I believe that's the case, but that might be a new rule that's in baseball.
Because they were saying that they're going to move Toua to third base to pitcher as soon as someone's on third base. It did seem odd that once there was then someone on third base, they didn't immediately do it. But
I think
there could be a specific rule for things like that.
Yeah, I think the reason why they did that for that one is because it was already 2 outs. They said that the reason why they're not going to put it for someone, they're not going to put him on third for this one here, which actually would have been great because a run would have been scored on Toua, or maybe not. Who knows? He would have been able to read Johnson there. But the reason why they didn't do it, according to, I believe, what they said in the episode, was that given that it's 2 outs, odds are Toua would have been able to just play the batter and not have to worry about an infield or outfield defensive play where they still get him out.
Right. That's less opportunities for him to basically let a run in. And if they moved him there, then he would be pitching at the start of the next inning, unless they moved him somewhere else, but then they'd have to move him somewhere else and then move him back. Yeah. So, okay, I like that.
Yeah.
And one of the things I would also love to see from this is that since we're seeing how much the manager on the other team is doing such a good job for them, seeing how the situation here, right, for the Lycaons is kind of getting fucked over maybe because the owner
and the
manager like they're doing too much shenanigans basically.
This will boil over and the manager will get upset.
Right.
The coach in the dugout. Yeah.
Because we're already seeing instances of where the press is like, these are some strange calls. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And like,
don't you think that maybe those kinds of excessive micromanagings kind of lost us this game?
Right. People might even be able to eventually figure out the motivations behind what they're doing with Toua.
Because they're going to ask questions.
They're going to ask questions. If he's the relief pitcher and he comes in and he does great, and then
why take him off? Yeah.
And why take him off? Especially if you're wanting to put him back on again, right? Especially if he's not good at doing first base stuff. So then it's like, wait, why are you trying to have Toua pitch as little as possible? Is there something going on, you know?
Yeah, one thing that I might think is where they can pull this off as a thing is that they want to use it as a tactic, and they can bring this up as a lie, basically, is that first base is theoretically the most underutilized in terms of fielding, like throwing, in terms of the defense. Like,
because most of the time you're just catching.
Most of the time you're just catching
throws that come to you. Yeah.
And Toua doesn't have any issues with that. Like, well, actually,
he does. He's really good at throwing, not necessarily great at catching.
Oh, right, but I'm meaning in terms of fielding, like actually like scooping up the ball.
Sure, he doesn't have to run around and do all that because it's always a forced out on first. Yeah.
Yeah. Or for most infield stuff. So I could see them trying to pull that there, but yeah, no, I don't think they'll do this first base stuff again, given how it actually made them lose the game.
Right.
I think they'll just take him off in general. But the technical rule of if you keep him on the field, you can still bring him back to pitch is an interesting one. I've never heard that rule before.
Yeah.
So
it sounds like the kind of like super specific rule that would probably totally exist and is the kind of things that I'm excited to see in this show, you know? But then of course I'm like, that also makes me wonder, like, how long do they have to be on that position? You know, like, in order for it to count, could you move them there and then immediately move them to pitcher? Like, that would seem to make sense.
Maybe that's where my 1 inning rule doesn't apply, is that only applies if it's a new pitcher. Meaning in order to put on an entirely new pitcher, they must have the previous pitcher pitch at least a full 3 outs or a full inning's worth. Like, they have to end an inning or something.
Right.
Like, it can't be done within, like, if they're doing it in the top of the 6th, then you can't bring that a new pitcher in after they've only thrown, 1 out in the top of the 6th. They have to finish the 6th and then do it in the top of the 7th or something.
Yeah.
But okay. Kojima, keeping the team honest. I like that. Bringing up the video. It's good stuff.
That was good.
And yeah, we've got a new series. So yeah, y'all, thank you so much for watching this episode's reaction and discussion. If you want to see the next episode's reaction and discussion right now, though, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. You can get on early access there. You can watch full-length timer reactions there, and all this comes with Discord access, so you can chat with us in the community there about this show, about anime in general, and also be sure to check out our Twitch channel.
We stream every weekday. The info's in the description.
Yeah, so if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all
next time.